Okay. Hello, everyone. We are live. All right. I hope we are doing well. Welcome, everybody, to WineShark Wednesday. It is I, your host, the WineShark. I see a couple of you already joining me. Well, hello to everybody in chat. Hello to John and to Dave and Mary. Hope you all are doing well. Thank you guys for being patient with me last week. We were doing kind of crazy planning stuff, and even today's show is kind of a bit of an improv, hurry up, giddy up, get go, because there's so many things going on. Very pleased to say we're finally getting to go on our Texas tour at the end of the week. We've got confirmation and we're planning for our California tour coming up in November. And we've got harvest going on, so there's all kinds of wine stuff going on in the wine world, news, events, things like that, celebrations, festivals, it's just everywhere. It's the wine world's kind of really cramming busy season. And even last night, I had an opportunity to go to a wine dinner, courtesy of my very generous and awesome mother, going to visit a wine dinner over in Bourray's, and featuring the Lang Twins Winery, who are one of my favorites. And so, actually speaking to Randy Lang, one of the winemakers and owners there, I actually got some interesting ideas about what I wanted to talk about tonight. So, hooray for inspiration coming up at the last minute, because my brain had been swamped and seething with all kinds of stuff. But on the news front, let's just say we've got a couple of things coming up. As I said, Texas tour. We had to shorten up the tour just to Friday and Saturday, just out of guest availability, etc. Apparently, not everybody's just going to take off and drink on Thursday with me. I don't know why, but there you go. Maybe they've got responsibilities and such. But we're gonna go Friday and Saturday. We're gonna go to William Chris and Adegavina, and we're gonna go to Coolman and Narrow Path as far as wineries. We're gonna visit a wonderful little dinner place called Vaudeville and a place called Chase's Place. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm gonna drive everybody around in the SUV, show them around Fredericksburg, and really have a great old time. So really looking forward to it. Thank you to all of our guests who are gonna be joining us there. You guys are making this dream come true each and every day, so thank you all very much. Anyway, as well, we've got Flavors of Fall. For those of you that are in the local Dallas area, we've got the Reunion Tower show again this month at Reunion Tower on the 24th of October. Okay, so that's a Sunday evening, 5 to 7. We're going to feature Flavors of Fall. You're going to hear me talking a lot about that a little bit in the show, just kind of where my mind has been, and on our fall flavors. You can wear my Spooky Dookie Fall t-shirt. Then we've also got the California Wine Tour. 6 of us are taking a tour to Lodi, to Clear Lake, and to Sonoma. We're going to stay in the Calistoga area on the north end of Napa Valley. It's going to be gorgeous, and I'm really looking forward to that and hanging out and spending time with all of you guys. So, very glad for those things as well. I'm going to be doing a feature show, one of the free Zoom meetings. I've got to figure out the scheduling because my October has become, this level shy of insane. It might be another spooky Halloween show where we feature monstrous wines and whatnot, or wines with monster themes or Halloween themes. So looking at the calendar there, I believe the 29th might be the day that we'll actually get that going. So look for that on Facebook. That again, tickets are free. Enjoy, grab a ticket with some friends. It's free per connection, and we have a heck of a lot of fun. Especially the more the merrier. If this whole theme goes through, all you have to do is find yourself a wine with an appropriately spooky theme, and then you can share it with us, and we can drink together and hang out. So. Anyway, let's talk topical things. We're going to talk about a little bit, first off, just we talked about what we're doing with the tours, etc. But after speaking with Randy Lang last night, one of the things I was talking to him about and talking to his team about was the availability of their wines, what their particular model is for how they approach the market for selling Lang Twins wines. I've had the opportunity to meet several different Lodi winemakers when they've come here on a little junket down to Texas, where we'll bring 5 or 6 different wineries will come over, and they'll kind of meet some of the local professionals in the industry, speak about their wines, about Lodi's practices, just kind of generally a get-to-know-you goodwill tour. And it's been really nice to meet some of the people who have been these 5th, 6th generation winemakers. Lodi is a very interesting space that you've heard me speak about in the past on the show. really is kind of what I call the solid core of California's winemaking. While it doesn't have the same flash and prestige as its cousins down in Santa Barbara or Napa or even Sonoma, they produce a lot of wine. They produce a lot of high quality wine. They have some excellent traditions, and quite frankly, they were responsible for keeping the wine traditions alive and moving during Prohibition, which kept California's wine industry from completely being extinguished. So huge props to all the Lodi folks, but a lot of the smaller winemakers that I met, and when I say smaller, meaning not giant scale, don't necessarily have a grocery store level availability. Some of them have more big box availability, but that got me wanting to talk a little bit about, to remind us of what we speak of to the tiers, and to really kind of talk about the pros and cons of purchasing and or the dangers as well of shopping at each of these particular levels. So we're going to start off with the grocery store, which is basically where you're really only seeing distributor level connections in the by and large. You're not necessarily going to be getting access to individual winemakers who are making deals with grocery stores, because grocery stores tend to go one of two ways. One, they will go with large distributors, people like, say, Constellation Brands or Republic National or Southwest Glaciers, somebody that can actually provide them with a almost nationwide, or at least their regional level of both usually beer and wine, sometimes spirits as well, depending on the state you live in. So they're going to make those deals at a very large scale, and therefore you're going to be exposed to brands that usually have national level attention. They also, by the way, have the buying power to even bring in their own labels. We've spoken on the show a couple of times. For instance, the Firefly brand, Firefly Ridge, was an example of a wine that was specifically created, bottled, and labeled for the Albertsons Safeway brand of stores, the Tom Thumb that I shop at. So that's an example of, they're so large, they're not even just selling you other people's wines, they've got enough prestige and putting enough money into it that they want to make the money all the way through the process, and they're going to create a label of wine exactly for themselves that you're not going to get anywhere else. You might also see this at big box retailers, non-liquor specific ones. So instead of I'm not talking about Specs, Siegel's, Total Wine, Goody, things like that. I'm talking about Costco here. The Kirkland brand of Costco, for instance, is another example where I've heard a lot of rave reviews. I'm not a Costco member, but I've heard a lot of rave reviews of the cost of the Costco brand wines, this Kirkland brand. Well, doing a little research over the last couple of years, understanding that they are basically contracting out their own custom-made wines. Randy Lang of Lang Twins again. One of the things they do at their facility is they do on-contract wine for people. So they've got a very large, very modern facility for winemaking, and not only do they do their own boutique wines that are their own brand name, but they also make wine for other people on contract. They've got a very nice, very modern facility that allows them to produce that kind of volume. And so it's kind of a fascinating topic to think about where your wine comes from. Now, of course, there's always the buzz about bespoke and artisanal and small hand and small practice. And we'll talk about some of that in just a minute. Absolutely. But when we talk about the majority of wine that most consumers are exposed to, they are on this larger scale. And while I constantly encourage us to seek quality within that range, I mean, the entire grocery store grab segment of this is literally flooded with wines that fall into these categories. They're not necessarily the small, the artisanal, and the bespoke. You're not getting the hand touch quality most of the time when we're talking about availability. So while grocery stores and member club only stores might have a ready access to wines, they may even have ready access to a lot of labels you heard of, or they've got their own unique private labels. Generally speaking, the wines you're going to get there are in that mass market category. No matter what the price point you see there, they're in that mass market category. I know there's several other places, for instance, that I've shopped. They have they've even got they've got a locked glass rack, right, with several with their expensive bottles of wine. And while these are some recognizable brand names, but that's the thing, they're recognizable national brand names. They're not really exclusive producers. They're producers that can afford to have their wine in hundreds of grocery stores across the country. Even if they're a $70 bottle, at retail, 50, 70, 80, $100 bottles, are definitely in that case there, depending on where your demographic is on the grocery store you shop at. But those are still brands that have that broad appeal, right? They've got that availability to be able to supply that. So that's the downside of going to grocery stores another side. So moving along from that topic, I need a sip. Next, let's talk about your liquor specialty stores, or liquor, wine, and beer specialty stores that are what I usually refer to as the big box stores. These are things like Total Wine, which is a national chain. You've got Specs, which is a very large Texas-based chain. You've got places like, Goody Goody, Seagulls. Those are also local names that I'm aware of. But in your area, I'm sure you have a particular group of liquor stores that are all, owned by a company that does that exclusively. They work directly with distributors once again, but they are definitely in that retail space at the end of the three-tier chain. They're not the producers, they're not the distributors, they're the retailers at the end. But because of their large business volume, they tend to get price breaks from those distributors and are able to offer you volume effective discounts. You might also places like Total Wine, for instance, even have their own distribution model with their what are they called? Winery Direct and Spirit Direct programs. These are examples where they're working directly with producers. They are a distributor in the own legal sense of the word, and therefore they're able to discount the overall product and occasionally get you wines and spirits. And although I don't see anything with beer, they can get you access to wine and spirits that you normally wouldn't see distributed outside of either local or direct to consumer sales. So that's one of the things why I love my Total Wine, is because a lot of the wines we get Winery Direct, particularly European wines, are benefiting from that distribution model, and the cost savings on it is noticeable at the every bottle level. I would say at a quality to quality point, you're going to save anywhere from $2 to $6 per bottle, depending on what price point you're running at. Okay, so while they also stock many brands from other distributors, they stock nationwide, well-recognized brands. Their Winery Direct program is an excellent example of where they're leveraging economy of scale. Okay, and that's where big box and specialty stores, or big box stores, not specialty, but big box liquor stores, are a great everyday use. In fact, that's where I said I tend to shop at Total Wine because it's convenient and close. I love Seagulls in my area. They've got some really good staff. The things I encourage you to look for there is, this is the first level where you have a staff on your side that is specialized in wine or beer or spirits, whatever it is that you're shopping for. They should be able to answer questions about the products that they're specializing in. They can help guide you to new experiences, or upgraded experiences, whatever it is you're looking for. Whether as long as you're not going back and buying the same product every day in, day out, you don't need help with that. I don't know, maybe you do. But if you don't need help with that, they're a great way that you can learn and go even further. So that's just something that I think that where most people's daily kind of purchasing should live. So the pros being, they've got lots of variety, they've got economy of scale. The cons are still generally speaking, they're trapped in the distribution world. They are, because of their large scale, they don't tend to hold on to brands that have smaller production values. Now, the example we're going to actually use tonight. So we're not going to be doing the grocery store grab today because, well, I didn't get this wine at the grocery store. I did get it at a big box retailer, and there's an adventure story I'll tell you about that in a minute. But also, this is a perfect example of the type of winery that I'm talking about that has worked specifically with retailers to decide where they're going to place their product to get the maximum effort for what they can produce. So Clinker Brick is a perfect example of that. By the way, labeling looks something like this. This is our Klinker Brick Winery Old Vine Zinfandel. This would definitely, while I love their wines, Steve makes amazing wines, and this in particular is one of my favorite. I think this is about a $15 bottle of Zin. Not a big long keeper, meaning it's not designed to lay down for a long time, but it's a big, jammy, fun Zinfandel that kind of puts right in the middle of what I would call Lodi's style. But the back of the label is not very informative. It basically just has some contact information and a government warning. So not a good example of label-driven wines. It instead is providing us an example of wineries that are not owned by big distribution, that do independently distribute and work with particular retailers to get their products around. That, by the way, is one of the reasons why these Lodi wine producers are making these particular journeys, is they're also making local contacts with individual retailers that will fall into the specialty and local category. But this was purchased at Total Wine, so they obviously have enough volume to play in that sphere at least some level. They're providing X many hundred and or thousands of cases. So that kind of model that's the other advantage that you're going to get out of big box liquor stores, is that occasionally you will get some things that are special to them, but you just can't. I wouldn't put money on it being that way always. You just may get lucky. If you actually really want to dig into the topic, it's interesting sometimes if you learn just a little bit about how labeling works in a retail environment. Meaning, if you go to a grocery store or a liquor store, you see the shelves, and they've got little price information. They've got the little spot that says this is this item, this is how much it costs. There's usually a lot of data on there that's used to track stock and inventory, and some simple letter codes often will kind of give you insight into who's the person stocking that shelf. You see, the distributors are generally responsible for filling up their particular footage in either a grocery store or a liquor store, and therefore they know. You can see, oh look, these are, for instance, Southwest Glazers provided, or these are RDNC, Republic National Distribution, or NDC, sorry. Anyway, I think that's, if you really want to get into the kind of what the dark arts of this thing is, you can actually look and see, oh, this is where they're getting that, and whether it's independent or somewhere else. So kind of a neat look. Last but never least, the big advocacy. This is the let's speak about the little guy. And this is where mostly I would go to seek out wines like we're trying today. The example here from Klinker Brick is a wine that I would more aptly and expect to see at what I would call the specialty or local independent retailer. Now, this is, again, small chains and or individual locations. Okay, these are not national level companies. I mean, I would even say they're not even regional companies. They may have a few liquor store locations and outlet locations within your particular geographic area. But these smaller companies, these smaller businesses, are very much where they have a particular niche. They're not going to be able to compete with the price points that are available to groceries and big box retailers. So if they're not competing on price, especially if they're not competing on price for products that people have bought in and bought, sold, and paid for brand loyalty. In other words, if you always go in and your favorite wine is, say, Sterling Vintners Collection Cabernet Sauvignon, and you're always buying that one thing, you're not really there for much else, you're going to find that the price point for smaller retailers is going to be a little bit higher than it will at the big box liquor store and or the grocery store. Although the grocery store I would put as a quasi-odd entity. At least here in my area in Texas, because of the blue laws, because of the TABC, Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission, and the remaining stink from prohibition, we have a system where the costs of the alcohol within the grocery stores, and especially in our county, were very odd for a little while. Why? Because the counties, we still had dry counties here in Texas where you couldn't sell alcohol. Then we have what we call damp counties, which are ones that sell beer and wine only, and then we have fully wet counties, which involve liquor as well. Well, my area around here used to be damp when I first arrived and then went to be wet. Well, there's a lot of money in the lobbying that goes behind these type of things, because opening up a new market to the liquor and wine retailers means a whole lot of fighting money, law firms, and other nefarious BS. So for a while, the grocery stores were actually inflated a bit. In fact, actually, you've heard me speak many times about the whole membership club card thing. That is exactly one of those cases. You can see it more than anywhere else in the store. If you look at a single bottle of wine and you don't have one of their quote-unquote memberships, some of the prices can be absolutely absurd. I mean, they're charging you anywhere from 25 to 50, even 100% extra, just because if you don't provide them with your club card information, because your club card information is tracked in that database to be able to say, hey, here's what the buying habits are. They want to know that you're a repeat customer, and they want to know what else you buy when you also buy your bottle of Sterling Binder Select Cabernet Sauvignon. So anyway, long story longer, retail at grocery stores can be odd depending on your area. If you don't have weird archaic laws like that in your anywhere, if you're a civilized country or a civilized county, well then goody on you, because we sometimes suffer for it. But specialty small stores really tend to focus, especially in the wine world, on the availability of wines that you cannot get in other places, the ones that you're not going to see at the big box retailers and at your grocery store. That is both the advantage to you, the consumer, and to them as a business, because what they're offering is a unique niche. They have their own discrete products that you're going to be able to explore. And as a wine drinker, I 100% hope that that's a place that you find in your local area if you are fortunate enough to have one based on your population and demographics. My nearest stores that are small stores are, generally speaking, what I would just call package style stores. When Plano opened up it became fully wet, we could have liquor stores, they popped up like mushrooms across the city. However, each one of them is basically just a small retailer, mom and pop shop type of thing that offers whatever they can from their distributor, and they're fairly standard. The wines you're going to see on the racks aren't unique. They're not into a wine program. They just sell beer, wine, and liquor because it's a good business. Okay, that's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about actually having a place that specializes and they want to sell fine wines, craft beers, craft spirits, and they go out of their way to make sure that they're speaking directly to places who are independent distributors as well as the big guys. So I've used the example before on the show. Pogo's Wine and Spirits is a great example. While not close to me, it's down in Dallas, down in uptown Dallas, whereas I live a little bit north. It is worth the drive to go down there and find cool and awesome things that I'm not going to get access to anywhere else. To give you guys a hint, in fact, I think I did a teaser of this, and now I need to come clean about it because I forgot to speak to you about the topic. I had I might have, I don't know, I've had wine since then, but I had a very interesting private tasting. I was contracted to do a tasting for a birthday party where the lady's birthday, it was a surprise party, and she was very into Lord of the Rings. So I did an entire Lord of the Rings themed show where all of the wines were from New Zealand, and specifically we tried the wines and we spoke about the wines, not only about their qualities and their wineries, but we also spoke about where the locations were nearby in the movie and the filming that were tied into the wines that we were drinking. Not an easy task, mind you, because many of the popular wine areas in New Zealand weren't anywhere near where they were filming. So it was a lot of fun, and it's a very neat concept with some very excellent wines. But that's a perfect case where stores like Pogo's provided the bulk of what I needed to do, because the big box retailers, they don't have variety and depth when it comes to a specific topic like that, right? If I'm looking for one particular sub-region within New Zealand, unfortunately, Total Wine's not where I need to be going. You're going to see some New Zealand wines for sure. But I think of the 12 examples that I had, 10 of them were from the exact same region. They were from Marlborough, the very popular wine growing region on the South Island. Well, that didn't help me. Pogo's, on the other hand, while they had fewer total number of selections from New Zealand proper, I think they only had about 8, only about 3 of them were from Marlborough, and I got to choose from many more discrete areas, which really suited my need, also suited my growth as a wine drinker, and really, of course, hit my theme like out of the park. So between that, and then I posted a picture on Instagram not too long ago, showed a couple of bottles that I had picked up, a bottle of Tavel and a bottle of Saumur. I mean, these are some regions where what you're going to see, even if you have a good big box store, pardon me, even if you have a good big box store that has access to some more esoteric selections, generally speaking, they're not going to be very deep into that esoteric selection. They might have one. My Total Wine, for instance, as far as I know, has one Tavel, a specific type of rosé. I've only got one from that region. And I've had it, and I like it, and I'll keep drinking it. But if I want to explore more Tavels, I'm kind of out of luck by going there. Now, I could go to other big box retailers and see and look around, but the point is, I went to Pogo's, and of course, they had their own examples that I'm not going to find anywhere else. So, if you are at the point in your wine journey where you are drinking for more than just drinking's sake, you're actually exploring the topic and trying to learn about wine. I mean, by the way, you never have to be there. You know me. Follow your dreams, and if it happens to be at the bottom of a bottle of, something like, I don't know. I'm not even gonna name names here, because if I did, I think you guys would probably feel like I was shaming you, but I'm not. The point is, if you just like what you like, and you like your wine world is small but deep, rock on, enjoy that. But if you want to widen your eyes and widen your world, independent retailers are really what you need to seek out and start shopping for. And another way you can do that online is if you're willing to pay for shipping from other places, is using winesearcher.com. Winesearcher has a great ability to help you locate specific bottles in almost pretty much anywhere in the country, and then find out who it is that's selling those. So if you're really at a wild yen for a specific vintage, a specific place, a specific winemaker, that's a great place to go look for it, because this is the wine equivalent of going, I want a 1975 Pontiac Catalina. Okay, well, cool. Let's see. I mean, you're not going to go shopping for that down at your local auto trader. You're probably going to have to go on to an auction site and find something like that. In the wine world, this is that same thing. You can go, hey, I want a bottle of 1970. I want a bottle of 1975. Chateau Saint Michel. Well, they weren't. Yeah, they were around by then. I'm making up random wines, so rather than being specific. But anyway, you get the point that if you're looking for something specific, that's the way to do it, and a great way to even seek out new wines of areas that you may like, or everything a particular winemaker has ever done. So anyway, just to speak about this wine real quick. As I said, we're not really doing a grocery store grab today, so I'm just sitting here drinking with you guys. This is a beautiful, nice, deep, jammy color. That makes a fun thing with my face on the camera. I like that. Whoa. We can do the entire show like this one day. Just a speaking mouth from behind the glass. Anyway. Big, jammy, very much blackberry, boysenberry. Lots of nose off of this. It has that boysenberry syrup aroma to it. And on the palate, it's pretty warm. We've got I think this is about 14.5 alcohol by volume, if not 15. It's interesting if I remember correctly. Yeah, this is 15.4. So it's kind of smoking hot. It will definitely catch up with you. But it has a beautiful, plush bit of fruit to carry that. So while it does have some mouth weight to it, it is a very soft, easy drinking Zinfandel. So kind of that iron fist and a velvet glove mentality. Also, because I know a little bit about this particular wine, I can speak to the fact that the old vines that are in this old vine Zinfandel are actually and genuinely old. To speak that topic once again, old vine Zinfandel, or old vines in general, is not really a regulated term. There's no magic number where your vines become old, just like people. Generally, wine grapes last for most large-scale producers, if I recall, run from about 3 years when they start really producing up until somewhere in the 15 to 25 range when they start to retire them. They'll go ahead and plow up the vineyard and plant something new because the yield of those grapes starts to drop off. Okay, so technically you could kind of look at that and say anything over 25 years would be considered old. I know it sounds weird to say it out loud. But when we talk about Zinfandel, especially that from the Lodi area, many of these grapes are pre-prohibition or prohibition era. So these grapes are in the 100-year range. Okay, now those are pretty rare to see older than the Centennial era, but certainly in the average vine age of 60 to 80 years for some of these is not uncommon in that area. You see the same thing in different regions around the world. Not every place keeps them old forever. It depends on tradition. It depends on their particular approach to wine and winemaking and their local laws. But this is definitely a genuine old vine Zinfandel from Lodi, and I think that's where you get that big, deep concentration of flavor. Remember that generally speaking, the older a vine gets, the less fruit it produces. As I said, the lower yield, but it also produces more intensely flavored fruit. Therefore, it is a prized possession in the wine world. You'll see everything from Viognier in France to other places that talk about the age of their vines. So, some people, it's funny because they don't even think about the age of their vines. They're simply the vines, and they've been growing there since the forever. So again, it really just depends on the wine tradition and goes to illustrate the fact that wine isn't the same thing everywhere in the world. There's a lot of variety to explore in a lot of different programs. So, all right, any questions from those of us that are joining us on chat before I say good night for the evening? I want to say that I said Spooky Dookie Wines likely on the 29th, Texas tour this weekend, Flavors of Fall 24 October rather, and then finally the New Texas tour. So, any questions? No. John says he wants a glass of wine. So, I would say the funny story about why I'm drinking Clinker Brick, because I used this at the beginning of fall show that I did at the Tower last month, and there was some confusion over the number of bottles I needed. I'd ordered 6. They only had 4 in stock. So when I arrived, I was informed that we were short. Or no, they emailed me and said, "Hey, this is short." When I arrived, however, they said, "Oh wow, we found the wine." I said, "Okay, great." Now I thought they had taken the wine completely off, but they had actually provided me already with 4 bottles. There was only 2 short. I told Mike, the general manager, I'm like, "I need 6." He went back to the back, got me 6 bottles. I then took those, put them in the thing. We worked out. I ended up paying for the difference. I got home and I realized that I had 6 plus 4 extra, so I had 10 bottles. So needless to say, I have a couple of spare bottles of Clinker Brick. When I say spare, I mean they're on the list of stuff to drink on a given Wednesday night. So here's that. So anyway, that is where you ended up with this, not only because of the Venn diagram of spare wine, but also speaking to Randy Lang. And guess what? Hopefully for folks on the tour, we're probably going to go visit Clinker Brick in about a month when we go visit Lodi on November 3rd. So that is going to be an exciting opportunity. You get to see where and how this wine is made. Get to meet some of these old grapes in person. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed. Again, me listening to me ramble. There will probably be a show. We will be on track with shows. Although my weekends are very busy with various work things for the rest of the month, Wednesday shows should be continuing to go on. Last year we did a spooky wine every week for the month of October. I've already obviously broken that tradition, so that's why I think we'll focus it into the one show. However, look for a grocery store grab next week. We're going to talk about more and more. We're going to back to the usual topical plan, talk about labeling, etc. If you guys have a suggestion or want to see something as a topic for the show, put it in the chat comments down below the video once we're done being live. That way I can see them, respond to them, and everybody can share. Okay? I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you like what we're doing, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button. If you really like what we're doing, check us out over on Patreon. My Patreon is a way you can support me directly. We've got fun and interesting things there beyond just the usual YouTube and Zoom content, including recipes, special discounts to events, VIP treatment when you are at in-person events, and all kinds of archives of the knowledge that we share on the Zoom meetings. So it's a fun little resource. You can donate for as little as $5 a month, or you can help me out. So always appreciate it. And to all of my existing patrons, thank you guys so very much. I really appreciate all of your support. It's been an amazing journey, and it only continues to get better. So until next time, guys, I have been your WineShark. Cheers.